Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And the title for today's podcast comes from a story that Don Donovan told me. Don was the CEO of an aerospace company, and he was so influenced by his introduction to the principles and the inside-out understanding by George Pransky that he wound up taking over 6,000 of the company's employees through principles-based state of mind training through a program I think was called State of Mind and Success. But before the program became a success, George had to sort of pitch Don on what he thought was possible. And the way Don told the story, or at least the way I remember Don telling me the way what happened, was that George came into his office and got to know him a bit, got to know the company, and said, well, here's what I can do for you. I can help you to double your results with half the effort and none of the stress. Now, Don's reaction to this was not, fantastic, where do I sign? It was, oh my God, you are the worst kind of used car salesman. What kind of a line is that? Who even says stuff like that? Like, double your results with half the effort, none of the stress, but don't order yet. You also get this Ginsu knife. Old reference. Few of you will get it and smile. The rest of you, it was an infomercial when I was a kid. Anyways, the funny thing was, as Don told the story, was that in fact, that was by and large what happened, except they got way more than double the results with way less than half the effort. And while they didn't get to none of the stress, they had very little of it. Now, I've thought about that for years, and I wanted to just take a little time in this podcast to share why I think that happened. Like, how is that even possible? And how could you experience that for yourself? So I'm actually going to start with the stress part of the equation. We think of certain things as simply being filled with pressure and stress. So in Don's company, they had contracts with the military where there were very tight deadlines and very low margins, and any mistake could be critical, not just because of targets, but because the equipment that they were building was the equipment that was responsible for saving people's lives. And so it was what you would assume was a high pressure, high stakes, high stress environment. But when they saw, not just somebody told them, but they saw for themselves that stress can only be created in our own mind. Stress is the feeling of stressful thinking. And if you have stressful thinking in a situation, then you will feel stress. And if you don't have stressful thinking in that situation, you won't. Stress is not like a cold that some place has more cold germs than other places. You don't catch stress from an environment or from another person. You create stress in your own thinking. And if you see that, it's not that you'll never think stressful thoughts again, but you don't have that same sense of, I've got to go with this, or this is a really good point, or of course I'm stressed, just look at what's going on in my life right now. Stress is thought. And when you see that, a stress-free life is not a fantasy. It's something you begin to experience more and more of the time. Now, the other part of the equation, doubling the results with half the effort, well, that's almost the definition of productivity. So in Creating the Impossible, I write about productivity not as being how much you produce or producing more per hour of work, but it's how much bang do you get for your buck? It's how much of an impact do you get from each effort? And when you look at productivity that way, you're no longer looking at how do I manage my effort so I can do more. I can make more effort, so I'll have more output, more productivity. It's not about trying to, increase efficiencies and, lock down your time and do this. It's simply about, how do I get more juice to each squeeze? I don't need more oranges if I get more juice to each squeeze. I don't need more time if I get more out of the time I do spend. I don't need to put in more effort if every effort brings about greater results. Now, most people understand this when I talk about it in reverse. So let me talk about it in reverse. We know that there is a point of diminishing returns in any project. There's a point where we've just worked on it too long, and if we don't take a break, it's just, we can sit in front of the computer for an hour and realize we haven't done anything for that hour. We can be in a meeting and realize that we long ago stopped being productive in this meeting. Nothing new has come out of it. So diminishing returns is the same productivity formula in reverse, where you're getting half the results with twice the effort. So what is it that affects that ratio? What is it that takes us from a 1-to-1 ratio, where 1 unit of effort brings 1 unit of reward, or a 3-to-1 ratio, where it takes 3 units of effort to get 1 unit of reward, to a 1-to-3 ratio, where each effort brings about triple the reward, or just the simple 1-to-2 ratio that George talked to Don about. And from what I've seen, there are a couple of factors that are critical. And one is enjoyment. When we are enjoying what we are doing, we do better. When we're enjoying it, there's a creativity there that causes us to think of shortcuts and think of different ways of doing things. And there's a sense of play, and out of that sense of play, brand new things come to mind that would never have come to mind otherwise, that make it feel effortless. In the movie Mary Poppins, there's a line in Spoonful of Sugar. In every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. You find the fun and snap. The job's a game. Well, that's true. And when the job's a game, we tend to do it so much more efficiently and be so much more productive. The second thing is being all in. I would love to have a classier way of saying this, but most of us are really used to half-assing. We're used to doing enough, being present enough to the task at hand. We're kind of distracted, we're kind of thinking about other things, or we've got other windows open on our computer, but we're sort of doing it. Well, when you go all in, when you throw yourself into any activity as if your life depended on it, knowing full well that it doesn't, you get more out of yourself. And that higher level of productivity means less effort for each reward. Now, there's one more thing that really helps, and that's noticing. The more we notice if we're stressing ourselves out or not, and then don't double down on stressing ourselves out, the more we notice, are we enjoying this or are we trying to get through it? The more we notice, am I really into this? Or am I just trying to get over it? Get past it to the next thing. The more time we'll spend enjoying, the more time we'll spend present, and the more we notice diminishing returns, the sooner in the game we notice it, the less wasted effort there is in everything you do, in everything we do. So that's your little thought experiment, if you want to play this week, is just start noticing. Notice situations in your life where you have diminishing returns, and notice situations in your life where you have exponential returns. And see if you can start to notice what's different between the one and the other. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.